Hey, true believers, Chris Mack coming at you with an action figure that I have been looking forward to picking up for a long time now. Today we're going over to the Transformers the Movie Studio Series Deluxe Class Perceptor. And if you guys want to pick him up at the time of this recording, he is available at Big Bad Toy Store and Dorkside Toys. If not, please always first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if someone has traded it in. And you can see here Perceptor, Transformers, Generations, Studio Series, all that good stuff. And then this is windowless, so I'm glad that when he was on the rack, no one futzed with him or tore that. That would have chapped my hide. So I'm glad that even though we're doing this stupid plastic windowless thing, that at least he's okay. Come around here, I love the artwork for the product Perceptor there. Really awesome look. Come around to the back. 20 steps. Yeah, we'll see about that. There's a read-up. I'll get a close-up so you guys can check that out at your convenience. Come back around this way. Close-up of Perceptor. Studio Series with 86. Nothing on the bottom. So with that said, let's get this awesome figure out of the packaging and get a closer look at him. Now here's Perceptor in his mobile artillery mode, which from what I understand is left over from his original micro change line back in '84 before Hasbro took over and made him part of the Transformers. And from what I understand is the original G1 version, you could actually put the Microman figures in here and they could ride along in it. So I'm kind of glad that for this version all the way up into 2022 that they kind of kept that there. Now before we talk any more about the figure, and as you can see we have the backdrop there from the '86 movie, the one thing again I want to kind of harp about is the plastic band that Hasbro's doing right now. And from what I mean by that is a lot of us, you know, we'll take our figures out, and me, I like to put them back in the packaging when I'm done and put them on a shelf. That way, if they fall, I don't have to worry about them breaking. The package just gets dinged or whatever. So when we put our figure back in, there's usually that plastic blister or whatever it is where you snap everything back into place. Because of this stupid plastic band, what's his name? Perceptor was just wired in to this. So now when we put all this back in the box, he's just gonna wangle around loose in box now because he was zip tied in and he had to snip all those. So that's absolutely useless. Now to talk about the figure. One thing about this modern Perceptor that I'm gonna say right off the bat that slays me, and not in a good way, is the fact that this microscope part, it does not work. I still wish that I could get my hands on a G1 Perceptor, but I'm sure that's gonna cost me an arm and a leg. And for his gun that he comes with, it's just kind of it looks like an old school like G1 red gun. I kind of wish that they would have put more detail on this, especially since we're saving plastic, so why can't we add some cool detail to the weapon? But still kind of gives that old nostalgia Transformer feeling. So there, and then there's a plug on the microscope here where you can just plug it in and make it look all sorts of fancy. But again, this is his mobile artillery mode. I like the tank treads there. And, it's just a welcome addition that there's a third transformation. It's not that hard to go from this to his what's this thing called? Microscope mode. My God, I've not had enough coffee today. So essentially what you do from this mode, we're going to kind of do this backwards because I just felt like making things more complicated on myself, is the legs are tabbed in here, which is there's this little slot. I thought it was this big one, but no, it is not. It's this little tiny thing that just tabs in right there. So you just take those out, kind of make them do the banana splits like so. And then you'll just joint down. And remember, we're looking from the back, not the front. So go like that. And then we're gonna come back around this way. And all you do is see how his legs in kind of an L mode. Swing his legs that way. And there is his microscope mode. Now again, I wish that this thing worked, because the original one, from what I was researching, is that thing could magnify 14 times. This, when you look into it, I'll see if I can't show you guys a little bit, you don't get anything other than blur. That's it. And I was just kind of like, oh, come on, this is like the first Perceptor figure in a while. And he's actually pretty small. He's just a deluxe. And I'm just like, come on, man. Even the G1 was bigger than this. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get him into his robot mode. So I'm going to put this up like so. Just close the tray, which is his chest. Then you'll swing the legs from here down into an L mode. And then here, you'll twist up, down, like that. Bring the legs and see how they're kind of wibbly wobbly. So you're gonna spin them all the way to the front. Treads should be inward. Foot goes out. Make sure the treads are inward. Foot out. And then these are the arms here. So what you're gonna do, let's see if I can get a close in for you guys, is they're tabbed in here. So you're just gonna pull the arm out and see how this tabs into this. So you'll bring the arm out that way. And then for this, as you can see how the telescope is here on his head. This part on his left side, leave alone. This here is an extra tab that you just pop out and it goes down on his shoulder. So see, you go from here, tabs into that hole initially to keep it locked in like so. So we're just gonna pull that out, pull it down on his shoulder. And then the arms, see how they're kind of gonna kind of tab them up. You're gonna bring the periscope down and up, and then the arm is gonna tab from here to here, like so. Same thing with this arm, gonna tab here to here. Just spin the arm down. First off, remember to, gotta pull the hands out. Can never forget the hands. So I gotta get this hand out. Or should I do the shoot, 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 or whatever the sound is. And then here, ow. Ooh, that head's in there tight. So when you initially take the head down, it's gonna snap in here really tight. I just banged my thumb. I actually had to use something flat to pop this back out, but the head tucks into his back like so. And then it snaps, and then you just spin the head 360, bring that back up, and there is Perceptor in his robot mode. Let's get a good focus because it's just kind of meh. And again, kind of small, but I think he's a good looking character. Again, have never had a Perceptor in my collection, so I think for me, just being able to have one, I'm happy for that. You know, he looks cool of the shoulder cannon. And, you know, you can kind of play with it a little bit. So do as you will with it. I wish that you can kind of tuck it on his back, but the best way is right there on his shoulder, like so. So real quick before we get into the, into the paint apps and all that stuff and the articulation, let's talk a little bit about Perceptor. In the comics, he was created by Bob Budiansky, and the figure was designed by Hideaki Yoke, who considered Perceptor his favorite. And we were just talking about a minute ago, before Hasbro, he was part of the Japanese toy line Microchange. He's an incredibly intelligent Autobot and a master of multiple sciences, but he's kind of an absent-minded professor with a thirst for knowledge, as we all kind of know that famous line from the Transformer movie talking about the deficiency in their defenses, and he's like, basically we're outnumbered, and you know how, what's his name, Ultra Magnus is kind of always just like, get to the point. And now with his first comic appearance, it was in Marvel's Transformers number 25 from February 1987. He was introduced as an underground Autobot resistance cell leader on Cybertron. and he would eventually find his way to Earth, assuming leadership after the tragic death of Optimus Prime. As for the first appearance of his G1 counterpart in the cartoons, it was Dinobot Island Part 2, which was the 15th episode of the second season. He was voiced by Paul Eating, who I think from what I understand in an interview stated that the Inspiration Perceptor's persona was essentially C-3PO, which shows off in the character a lot. And again, this is from the movie, but it does look like, you know, his season 2, season 3, and of course the movie look. I love the silver on his face going into the paint apps. Black looks good. It just has that very G1 feel about it. The reds, blues look good. And I love that, you know, the parts that are supposed to be part of the microscope just look really fancy on his hands. That Autobot logo there on his chest. Awesomeness. Again, I wish that he was as big as his G1 counterpart. I'm not a huge fan of these deluxe figures, though I will admit that for for what he does, his transformation is a heck of a lot easier and actually pegs in the way he's supposed to, compared to some of the other ones like Bumblebees or like Jazz from the Bay Studio Series versions. Those are a pain in the butt to transform. But just an overall absolutely gorgeous figure. And even though the microscope, I hate that the microscope doesn't work. That drives me nuts. But still, it looks great. Love the little adjuster there on the top with that silver. Looks good. And because it doesn't work, you know, you can't twist any of this to get any magnification. I hate that there's a hole in his back, but again, that's where his head goes. So sometimes you have to suffer looks for function, which I get. But overall, absolutely great looking figure, and I'm happy to have it in my collection. Now that you guys can kind of get an idea of what the scale is, here's Perceptor next to the Revenge of the Fallen Demolisher. And even though one's a Michael Bay movie and one's from the '86 film, you put them together like so, and it's gonna look awesome. Especially kind of having Perceptor not being the most militaristic in the cartoons as he was more in the comics. It's gonna look awesome on a shelf. And even though I put these two up like this, I'm glad for the size that Perceptor is. I wish that he was a little bit bigger, but I'm a fan of bigger Transformers. But nonetheless, he looks great, and I'm happy to finally have one in my collection. So guys, if you're wanting a Perceptor, I highly recommend this one. As I said, please, first and foremost, support your local comic shop. If not, then you can check out the places we talked about at the beginning of the review. The transformation's relatively easy. You know, some of the bigger ones can be a pain in the butt, especially the tinier versions. So I'm glad that his 2, well 3, including his robot mode, is relatively easy. So with that said, if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Autobot bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. And I hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading. Photo slideshow coming up next, and happy hunting, true believers.